Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Conny, and thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really excited about this. This talk is entitled, Follow Your Bliss. Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. That means pursue your passion, but pursuing your passion is not easy. It's a lot of hard work. In fact, at one point, Joseph Campbell bemoaned that some people took it as an excuse to pursue hedonism. He related, I should have said, follow your blisters. Indeed, it is only by following our blisters that we ultimately find bliss. The focus of this talk is art, spiritual emergence, and the hero's journey. For most people, spiritual awakening and growth are not a smooth line of progression. It happens in phases, challenges, and different kinds of transformation. We each have our own journey to take, and we each handle it in our own way. I have always been interested in art, mythology, and psychology. Like most children, I began drawing at a young age. I was also very fond of books, went to the library often, and read voraciously. As a teenager, I drew pictures constantly, and I still have most of them. I have some examples here. So this is a picture I drew when I was about 15 years old. And I named this character Boogie, as in boogie woogie or get down and boogie.
Oh, okay.
I could pass this around. Now, around that same time, I read a popular book, The Teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah.
And I drew a picture based on one of the scenarios in the story. Actually, he's supposed to be upside down.
Okay.
Yes.
You were here, you know.
It's been a long time since I read the book, so I don't remember the exact scenario, but yes, he's actually supposed to be upside down in the picture. A major turning point happened for me when I was about 6 months away from high school graduation. I was in the high school library and I found a book on Native American silver jewelry. And I was so taken by the beauty of this art that I decided I wanted to study silversmithing. So I told my parents I was going to drop out of high school and go to silversmithing school. I couldn't see the point in finishing high school if I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Well, of course, they were flabbergasted. And they said, no, you're not dropping out of high school. You're going to stay and finish and get your diploma. So, of course, I did. And I'm very glad that I did. It was very wise of them to advise me to stay in high school. So then I completed my graduation, saved up some money, and went out west to study silversmithing. In the spring, I returned to New Jersey, and with my new skills, I immediately set to work as a silversmith. I was 20 years old. A year later, I felt compelled to attend college and get a degree in art. Naturally, we were required to take elective courses, and I chose to take a political science course. About halfway through that semester in this political science course, I had this awakening, this realization of all the problems in the world. Now, I knew there were problems in the world before that, but this course really opened my eyes. And so it made me question my path in life. And I decided I wanted to help people. So I did some research and some deep thinking, and I chose to switch my major to psychology. I continued to do some art on my own, but now my main focus was psychology. Now, I was raised Catholic, but at the age of 11, I was very unhappy, and I deeply questioned this religion. I didn't know what else there was, so I became an atheist. From then on, if you couldn't prove it with science, it didn't exist. However, in my mid-20s, I began to feel a need for some magic in my life. I didn't know why, but something inside of me was calling. So I found a book on goddess mythology, ancient symbolism, and earth-based beliefs. Again, it opened my eyes. It's like the allegory of the cave by Plato, in which people are chained to the wall and all they see are shadows. As you become freed from the cave, you begin to see that the shadows are not reality, and that reality is actually very different. This was an ongoing theme for me as the layers were slowly peeled away. In my late 20s, I read a book that changed everything I believed about life and human existence. I was a fan of Joseph Chilton Pearce and his book, Magical Child. Then I read his book, The Crack in the Cosmic Egg. He wrote about meditation, spiritual energy, and Kundalini. It completely changed my worldview and my lifestyle. I became passionate about meditating and learning every aspect of spirituality. I began to sense auras and energy fields. And this was the universe's way of telling me, this is real and you don't need science to prove it. I read lots of books and attended lots of workshops. I also discovered spiritually influenced art, such as the mandala. In fact, there's a mandala right behind me. I also came across the visionary art of Alex Grey, who would later come to have a great influence on my own art. I have a larger book with all his paintings in it, but I moved recently and it's still packed away somewhere. So this is the one that I was able to access. I'll pass this around so you can take a look at it. After I graduated with my BA in psychology, I worked in the social work field for a while, but it wasn't really fulfilling me, and I became restless. I wanted something more. So I decided to open a metaphysical bookstore where I began teaching classes and workshops. It was also around that time that my ongoing spiritual practices began to bring up all this pain from my childhood. And so I began to seek various healing modalities from different healers. This journey had its ups and downs, and it took many years to heal myself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It was like opening Pandora's jar, and all this stuff just kept coming out. If you really want to heal, you have to deal with it, and you can't stuff it back down again. The business I was running was challenging to keep going, so I decided to apply to graduate school. I attended the Master's in Psychology program at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and then I chose to become a life coach. I began to realize that standard psychotherapy, with its emphasis on the past, was extremely limited. There is so much more to us than traditional psychology tells us. We exist in a multidimensional way, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. My personal studies in mythology have helped me to more deeply understand the various aspects of life and the different issues we experience. We are stories. Our lives are stories, and our stories can be directed and shaped. Around that time, I started doing a lot of writing, and ideas were coming to me constantly. I have officially published one book, the Positive Power Workbook. Now, about 10 years ago, I had a deep experience of enlightenment. And at that same time, my art began to call to me loud and clear, and I knew I needed to focus on it more. So I attended an intensive art seminar with Alex and Allison Gray at Omega Institute. It was incredibly inspiring, and it propelled me deeply into my art. Although I have tried many different things, I keep creating mandalas. Here are a few examples. This is one I did in marker pen. And this is another one that I did in watercolor. This one is called Gemstone Mandala. The main point of my spiritual journey has been getting grounded and centered and balanced. The center of the universe is everywhere. In religion, we are taught that God is somewhere outside of us. God is in heaven or some distant realm, but that is not true. The only thing that ever stood out to me in my Sunday school teachings in Catholicism was when the teacher said, God is everywhere. And I knew that in the core of my soul. 10 years ago, I had the deep realization that everything is spiritual. All of life is spiritual. It's all just energy. Life is art, and everything is designed and created with energy. We are the universe. One of my favorite stories in childhood was The Wizard of Oz. It relates how Dorothy Gale encounters a problem that leads to more problems. She experiences a fantastic adventure looking for the answer to her problem. And in the end, she discovers she has the solution all along. As Joseph Campbell said, the journey of the hero is about the courage to seek the depths, the image of creative rebirth, the eternal cycle of change within us, the uncanny discovery that the seeker is the mystery that the seeker seeks to know.
Let me see.
Okay, so that picture that I passed around called Boogie, the one I drew when I was 15, has evolved. This one is entitled, I Am Creative Energy.
Beautiful.
I'll just put this out front here. This is a self-portrait I drew when I was studying art in college, back when I was getting my bachelor's degree. It was part of an assignment.
You want me to put it over here?
Okay. So that one evolved into this. This is called, I don't know how well it will stand up.
I'll be down. Whomever.
This is called Rapunzel. I did this in watercolor.
There's a softness to it. There's a softness to this.
Yeah, yeah. And in the theme of fairy tales and folklore and mythology, this is one I did also in watercolor. This is Rip Van Winkle, the man who slept in the mountains for 100 years. Actually, in the Catskills of New York. One of my favorite places to go.
Yeah. There you go.
And this was part of a gallery exhibition. The theme was masquerade. And I did this one in acrylic. I can't remember the title of it. I don't know if it was the Joker or the Trickster, or one of my favorite archetypes, the Trickster.